Malik's First Job, Financial Principles for Teens, is an excellent resource to get your children started on understanding the basics of financial literacy. This book, which is set in Brownsville, Brooklyn, about a young man who gets his first job and then shortly thereafter sits down with his dad to learn how to manage his money. There are several topics that are covered within this work, such as paying yourself first, disciplining your spending, knowing the difference between an asset and a liability, creating multiple sources of income, as well as the importance of being charitable. So again, if you want to get your children started on understanding finance and becoming responsible adults, we highly recommend that you purchase the book, Malik's First Job, Financial Principles for Teens. So please visit maliksfirstjob.com to get more information. Peace.
I would read stories. So I read about Ice Cube running up in offices for publishing. I read about I read about Snoop and read the back of Snoop album. It says S.U.N.Y Publishing. So I read a lot of the horrors that artists were complaining about, and I was like, I'm not gonna let that happen to me, Bob. So that's how, no matter what deals that came towards me, I would never gave up any publishing.
Okay.
Because I was learning from them.
Malik's First Job Podcast, here to answer any questions that y'all ask. Financial literacy and resources. Parents and young people becoming bosses. CEOs, future leaders, entrepreneurs. Conferences and boardrooms getting sponsors secured. If you want generational wealth, Brooklyn's own Kerwin Phillip with information to help. Malik's First Job Podcast. Malik's Podcast. Brooklyn's own Kerwin Phillip. Kerwin Phillip. Malik's First Job Podcast. Podcast. Brooklyn's own Kerwin Phillip. Generational wealth.
Hey, peace. What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Malik's First Job Podcast, where we discuss leadership, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy for parents and teens. Today, we have a remarkable guest, a good friend of mine, Mr. Vinson Wordsworth Johnson, right? And I'm gonna let him introduce himself. So if I went through the whole resume, we'd be here for a couple of days, right? So go ahead and tell them about yourself for those who aren't familiar with Wordsworth.
What's up, world? I'm Wordsworth. People know me a lot from Lyricist Lounge TV show that was on MTV. And they also know me a lot for Punchline and Wordsworth, EMC. So writing lyrics, also doing cartoons, SpongeBob, right now Netflix, Peabody and Sherman, and just a rapper / actor, TV writer, just overall doing everything. And now I'm a teacher, and I teach TV, film, and music production. And those are the different things that I deal with.
Right, nice. So let's kind of go back, right? So how did you get involved in music originally?
My sister and my cousin. So my sister Kim, she's 4 years older than me, and my cousin Elliot is 4 years older than me. And I would see them doing it outside, and my cousin Elliot was like the best freestyler to me coming up. I was like, wow, this dude is just like coming off the top of his head. He would pick me up from school and walk home freestyling. And I was like, that's kind of dope. And everybody's like amazed by him freestyling, rhyming about stuff. So of course I'm gonna be like looking at him like, I gotta get better at freestyling. And then my sister, she was in the hip hop vibes a lot too, because she would join talent shows. So by the time she hit high school, that's when she was in a lot of the talent shows, and me being like 4 years younger. So I'm like around she's in high school, maybe at around 14 or so, right? So I'm 10. So watching her dance and stuff like that, at that time, I'm still buying like records, and my mom's bringing them from downtown Brooklyn and stuff. So that's how I kind of got into it, is really having older siblings buying the records and being a part of hip hop.
Okay. So I guess that's what kind of piqued your interest, right? And I guess, did you start writing from there? Like at what age did you really get into your whole pen game?
I started writing in 5th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, 5th grade, I started writing. And I remember it was like you had the new school and old school. Remember they was having that? So then I started becoming like, my name is the principal. So I'm the principal of the new school. You know?
Right.
So I started writing around then.
Okay.
My 5th, 6th grade, because at that point is when I learned people actually started writing rhymes. Because before that, remember my cousin, he's going off the top, and you can go outside banging on the elevator doors or elevator walls. We going down,
Right.
you go outside, you banging up on somebody's car hood. And
Right.
then so I didn't know about writing. It wasn't until I saw when I saw Crush Groove
Okay.
and Run DMC and them start. And then I started seeing notepads with artists, and I'm like, oh, they're writing the rhymes.
Right.
Because remember, if you just listen to records and you're doing it without writing, you assume that everybody's doing it without writing when you're young. You're assuming this is the technique. Nowadays, if you're you have the liberty to see what's going on in the studio. So you can be like, oh, I'm getting that microphone. Oh, they write it on their phone. Oh, that's how he or she does that. Then it was just, I heard the song, I'm outside doing it. I guess this is how it was done professionally.
Right. And I remember I was in college when I believe Ty, your roommate, a friend of mine from high school was your roommate in college. And he was telling me about you. He's like, yeah, I got my roommate, he's a rapper, he's an MC. You should check him out on this. He gave me the cassette tape from the Stretch and Barbito show.
Right.
The time where I think Tone, Red Hot Lover Tone, took you and Punch up to the studio. Right. Now, how did that happen? How did that come about?
Well, I met a friend of mine named S.U.N.Y in high school. S.U.N.Y introduced me to Punchline. And then I got down with that crew with them. S.U.N.Y wound up going away to college. He went down south to college, I believe Clark, right? And he went there, and me and Punch was like, well, it's not 3 of us no more.
Right.
It's us 2. And around that time, they had rhymed for Tone and Pope at some time at one day. And so they were already plugged in with Trackmasters.
Okay.
So then I came around and rhymed around Tone and Pope. So they're trying to figure out what to do with us. And we're hanging around the studio every day. And then Tone is dropping albums on Select Records at that time, Red Hot Lover Tone. So he's like, let me bring y'all up to Stretch Armstrong and Barbito, because that's the place where you get your name known. So we went up there with him. And from that day forward, Barbito on that same show, he says, y'all should be a group.
Wow.
Because we actually were solo artists when S.U.N.Y left. And that's how you get Punch and Words from Barbito. And and then that's how that all started. So it was really us hanging out with Trackmasters and being in the studio a lot, and Tone actually being an artist that helped a lot.
Wow. I remember like listening to it, I'm like, this like listening to like the punchlines and the similes and just the metaphors that y'all were using. I'm like, these dudes are on a whole different plane. I'm like, how do you even come up with some of the stuff that y'all was saying? It's like y'all, your vision and I guess your pen game was, both of y'all was sick, beyond, what I seen at that time. We had other punchline rappers, but just some of the stuff that y'all was saying was just like, how do you even think of that? It made so much sense.
Yeah, you just start looking for them. Like you become trained into that because that's what's going on. So you start having an active ear for it. Somebody says something you see popular going on. How do I flip that? So it just became that part of the writing. And then after a while, it just was like I had started noticing the longevity of a rapper wouldn't be that. So then I switched my style purposely, and I knew the longevity of a rapper would be in storytelling. So then that's what I had to pivot on. So luckily I was kind of just like, I'm into the vibe of wanting to learn and watch them, right? Because I could have been like, I'm just going to do this style until today. But then back then, it was really a lot of stuff we were seeing. I just was observing and hearing, and I would listen. And that's a very key to it, a lot of it too, is just listening to elders and older people compliment other rappers. And I would hear what they would say, and I would be like, okay, that's dope. Because I would hear what they say about certain type of rappers and those rappers' styles, and I was like, I don't want that stigma on me. I don't want this on me. And that's how I learned to transition from that.
Nice. Right. So also talking about writing, now the rumor has it that when you were in school, that a lot of the papers that you turned in as assignments were written as rhymes. Is that correct?
That's more than 100% correct. I actually have them all.
Say it again?
I have all the papers.
You have all the papers?
I have all the papers. Yeah, I have them. I have them all. Yeah.
So what made you, or what kind of sparked you to want to write your papers that way?
I was bored. I was bored. One of the main things that started it was I wrote a paper and I quoted something out of a book, and the professor was like, "That's the way you quoted it is like plagiarizing it because you didn't put in your own words. I was supposed to take whatever they said and surmise it." So, so to me, I got offended, like you calling me a biter. I took it to a hip hop vibe, like, oh, you trying to say I'm biting? I don't do that. In hip hop, we don't do no biting. Right. So I said the only way to get around this, if I write it in rhyme, is no way to be biting, no way to be you confront on what I'm doing as long as I got the punctuations properly. Right. So that's what I did, and it got accepted. I got an A. So once I got one A, I was like, okay, they let me ride with this. But it did come up. Dr. Hicks, which was the leader that she led the English department. When I had met with her, she was like, you know, I heard you doing all this stuff with writing your papers in rhymes. And she actually said she told all the English teachers and all the people in the department to let me do my thing.
Okay.
So I always big up Dr. Hicks for that. She said, let him do his thing. She said, you know, it's like the Harlem Renaissance. You know what the Harlem Renaissance is? I was like, oh. So she was hip to what I was doing, way ahead of what, you know, the average professor at that time that's thinking I'm just writing rhymes. She was like, nah, this is something different. This is what's going on.
Right. Now let's kind of touch on that a bit. Now, normally, I guess when kids go through school, they just try to go with the flow, right? Stay with the status quo and not try to ruffle any feathers. Now, I guess how important is it for students to kind of think outside the box and be original?
It's extremely important.
Yeah.
I think you have to attempt it and see if you get shut down. So once I did it, another key moment was Professor Terrell. So I have a picture with me and both of them, like from 2016. But Professor Terrell one day was doing Shakespearean sonnets, and she was talking about them, and I was like, she's like, what do you think? And I raised my hand, and I was like, it's not better than Nas. Or I think she just picked me, and I said, it's all right, but it's not better than Nas.
Okay.
Illmatic, right?
Right.
Professor Terrell, instead of like kind of like brushing me off, she said, who? I said, Nas, Illmatic. So we talked 90, 94. So it's still early when I just kind of got there. What she did is actually she walked over to her desk and wrote down the album. Okay. Then after I started handing in work on Sir Gawain and the Green Knight and rhyme, she pulled me out and said, yo, you should turn these into children's books. Wow. So that support, you need that support, but you have to attempt it first. You have to not be afraid to put professors and people on. So that's how I do with the kids that I got. Yo, what's new? What's the new, who's the hottest artist right now? What you listening to? You got to inquire to keep them engaged. So that's the main thing I would say. Inquire in the students and your audience to keep them engaged.
Yeah, I think that's a message for both the students and the educators as well, right? So the educators have to be open to allow, give kids that flexibility to be creative, right? And to think outside the box. And on the student side, they have to be overcome that fear or that apprehension from wanting to, not just challenge, but to, do something different and to use their imaginations. I think that's very important.
Yeah, for me as a teacher, I'm a GPS. That's how I do it. You put in the directions of where you want to go,
Right.
and then I show you the routes to get there.
Right.
That's it. I'm not gonna tell you which way to drive. I'm gonna let you choose which way to drive. I'm just gonna let you know, okay, maybe we should go faster here. This is what's going on here. How to get there in a timely fashion, and what's maybe the best direction to get to your destination. And that's how I teach. So
Right.
I'm not gonna give you necessarily the directions totally, but I'll tell you where we're trying to go. Once you put the directions in, I'm looking for you to be creative to get there, and then I'm going to help you with your pitfalls.
Right. So, and you said that you still have those papers today.
Yeah, I have.
And any plan on releasing them so people can see them, or?
Yeah, I have. I started an autobiography some years ago. I actually have it on my phone.
Okay.
I have the autobiography on my phone, and I got to have the book cover and everything. This book cover and everything actually been done years before my first book.
Okay.
So I didn't have that. Shout out to my boy DeMar Douglas. He did the book cover. So I have it. I can text it to you. You can check it out. The book cover is front and back is done everything.
Okay.
But it's been sitting there because I felt my story wasn't finished. Because what was happening is I was accomplishing new things every year that I couldn't close the book.
Okay.
So it kept pushing me. So I'm still feeling like that. Like some of the things I've done, it's like, man, now I can add that in there. Also, I had to delve deeper into writing about my upbringing. So I started writing more about as a kid where I grew up at, going with my mom to her old jobs and and stuff, and me asking my mom questions, and even her, she's like, "You remember that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I remember that." Wow. So I felt I needed to delve deeper into it. So yeah, I have it in, like I said, I have actually the PDF of the book on my phone.
Okay. So I guess how long are you going to continue to work on it before you release it? And any you have a tentative date?
I got it. With each project, what I realized is I got to put a project out to buy time for the other project.
Okay.
So that's what I've learned. I've learned to find projects that can get time. So my first book, it's my first book, is that album because it's my shortest album.
Okay.
I didn't want to do the first book on my longest album, so I said, let me do it, get it out. And it helped buy me time because at that same year, I typically was dropping an audio album. So I dropped a book because I made a pledge to myself to drop something every year. Right. So that bought me time because I didn't drop an album that year. But it gave me time to work on it. And then the next year I dropped the album and so on and so forth. So I plan on dropping it, but I'm still sprinkling in it here and there, little things. Because, it's an autobiography, man. It's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, because like I say, you've done a lot.
A lot to talk about. And I'm still also trying to see how to do it. I may have to get interviewed because you can't be but so introspective, if that's a word, but like inside yourself to really see some of the stuff you're missing. You'll be writing it, but then somebody asks you a question, you're like, man, you start telling a whole nother story you didn't put in the book. So I need people to ask me some things so maybe get a little more introspective.
Yeah, sometimes you need somebody to kind of jog your memory. Yeah. And get the conversation going. And once you start talking, then you start remembering stuff and then you'll talk a different way.
Yeah. So that's where it's at.
Yeah. That's what's up. Peace. What's going on? This is Kerwin Phillip from the Malik's First Job podcast. Just a quick reminder, hit that subscribe button below and that notification bell. That way you never miss an episode when it drops. All right? Thank you all for supporting, and let's jump back into the conversation. Peace. Now, I know oftentimes when we get together and we be talking, we often speak about like the business side of things, right? Like intellectual property and protecting your IP, right?
Yeah.
The things that you create. So I guess how did you come to learn, from a business aspect dealing in music? I guess how did you learn to, respect or the value of your intellectual property? How did you learn those lessons?
Watching other artists complain.
Okay.
That's it.
Right.
That's to this day, it's the same thing. You'll still see artists getting bad deals. They'll sign bad deals, even though bad deals been getting signed before me and you were born.
Right.
And despite that, and knowing what the important parts of it, desperation has people, desperation without information.
Right.
But, you can search more. Some people don't want to search more, and desperation, man. Desperation, man, will really put you in a bad position. So for me, it was when I started, one of the things was like, I said this story the other day about how the Source magazine used to come out. So this is June, right? Remember the Source would come out in June. But remember June is an old issue. It's old topics because June has to run the whole month to July, but June actually has everything that happened in May.
Right.
Right? So that's for everybody back then. It used to be May news is coming out in June. So you're super far behind in real life. Today, as soon as it happens, it's out. It's the day of, it's the minute, it's the second it's happening. So then I would read stories. So I read about Ice Cube running up in offices for publishing. I read about I read about Snoop and read the back of Snoop album. It says Suge Knight Publishing. So I read a lot of the horrors that artists were complaining about, and I was like, I'm not gonna let that happen to me, Bob. So that's how, no matter what deals that came towards me, I would never gave up any publishing.
Okay.
Because I was learning from them.
Right.
I mean, if you look at NWA movie, that's a huge issue. That's a huge issue in that movie. So imagine back then. So I just was trying to just look at stuff that they were willing to kill for. That's how I knew it was important. Remember, the dudes was willing to kill for that back then.
Right.
So, even now. So when I saw that people were willing to kill and die for it, I figured it was pretty important.
Yeah. I know, like recently we just saw Anita Baker. She just recently got her master's from her music. We're seeing that happening now. I guess as people get more aware, right?
Yeah.
So, like we often speak about information and access to information. There's more access now, so you're being exposed to more, and there's no reason why you can't go out and search and find out all this information.
Well, another thing that happened too is the formats have changed, right? So that's another reason for, like, if I'm right, like De La Soul didn't release their music or sign off for their music. What's kind of full circle is, like, if you look at it, Dr. Dre, he had left Aftermath, right? And he left. Well, he started Aftermath, but he left Death Row.
Yeah.
And he let them have everything.
Yep.
But in those contracts wasn't digital downloads. True. So you have to renegotiate to get any of that on these new platforms. So in the long run, it's like he sacrificed that, but now to get it on these other things, I'm sure they had to come to him now and like renegotiate. So you gotta, take those things in consideration when you're about to do these things. But desperation without information is harsh.
Yeah, because you have these, people, these labels coming to these kids and coming out the hood, and they flash money in front of them. It's like, okay, let me go ahead and do it, and not really understand the business side of things.
Right.
Like a couple of weeks ago, I went to the Black Enterprise Entrepreneurship Summit, and Master P was speaking about the fact that, he was out, selling CDs out of his trunk and created a buzz on the street, in different cities. And he was approached by, I believe, Jimmy Iovine, and he offered him like $1 million.
Right.
And he said, I had $500 in my pocket, but I turned it down because he knew the value of what he had, because he saw the contract and saw that he had to give up his name. He couldn't use his name, gave up all his rights. And he was like, I'm still making some money on the street. I could still, try to retain that and, make that $1 million myself without getting that check.
It's a very difficult decision when you're young.
Yep.
A certain amount of money is thrown at you. I remember having a deal offered to me, and they were like, "We'll give you $75,000 for a certain amount of albums," but they wanted some of my publishing, and I was with my close friends, and I took him to the meeting, and he got out of character. He was hyped. He got hyped. 75 G's. He like said it right there, and I had to look at him. I had to give him a look like, "Yo, chill."
Right.
Like, because he doesn't understand what comes with that. He didn't understand the publishing. And in that same meeting, I told the president of the label straight there, I said, nah, I'm good on that, because if I'm mad with you next week, I'm still writing songs for you.
Right. Right. True. That's true.
Right. So, and that could be for years. Me and you get in an argument, every verse I write,
still
go with him. And I told him that. And that's why, I told that CEO that right then and there. So that's a huge risk on me, because like 75,000 at that time for me would have been okay. I don't think I would have probably did the right things with it. I would have probably spent it on.
How old were you at the time?
Huh?
How old were you at the time when they offered that 75?
Like 25.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know nothing about nothing. I would have been like, I would have did the wrong things with that. I'd have been going
to Brooklyn with a new whip.
That'd have went so fast off the basis that taxes would have had to go get paid. It would have been bad. And then who knows to right now if I'm still writing songs to try to recoup that. It just was a bad look. So I just knew to think forward and knew that I needed to keep that based on Snoop and Ice Cube.
Ice Cube. Wow. It's crazy. It's crazy. Right. So now, I guess, the fact that, I don't want to say you stayed below the radar, but, you didn't have that massive, you didn't come out like a big superstar, but you kind of stayed like in that underground circle and still had success doing so.
Yeah.
Right. Still have a successful career, because you had the Lyricist Lounge show that was on MTV, right? And you were still able to write for other programs and shows and other artists, right? So how did that that MTV deal come about with the Lyricist Lounge show?
The Lyricist Lounge show started with a cipher. If you got Lyricist Lounge Volume 1, there's a couple of ciphers on that album.
Right.
In between, like they're reenacting what it's like being the Lyricist Lounge. And during that session, it was like 25 rappers in one room. So my boys, Wise Guy and Gaston, they always had a camera and a radio. If anybody ever gets to talk to them guys, they have footage of like everything back then. I mean, they're twins, and they were split up. When it's 2 events, they were split up and go videotape everything. Like, they got so much of everything. Yeah. So they knew it was 25 of us in there. They pulled the camera out, they pulled the beat out, and the cipher started. And my thought is, okay, when it comes to me, how do I outshine everybody and do something different? So my thought was, when the camera comes to me, I'll do a tutorial teaching people how to rhyme at home.
Okay.
So I was rapping to the camera and using the wall as a board and telling people how to put together verses. And then Thurston Howell and a couple other people that were there were raising their hands, asking me questions, and I would answer them in rhyme. And that became a videotape, and it was named The Professor. So a guy by the name of Jacob Septimus, one day, he had it, and he was like, yo, man, I saw that videotape, man. It could be a TV show. Like, I went to his house, he told me that. I was like, I was like, yeah, all right. And I left.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
yeah. Because back then you would get a record deal before TV.
True.
Right? Everybody record deal, TV, or movies. I couldn't even think of I'm skipping the process of getting the record deal. It wasn't in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So next thing you know, we got a pilot going on. Danny Castro, Anthony Marshall, who created the Lyricist Lounge, they pick who the character is going to be, and
right.
They were genius in that because we all made it to the show, the original characters. That doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
So me, Power, and Master Fool, we're the original, and we were friends before. You can get in this situation, and when they do those tests, and hey, you like this character, people can be like, nah, this is whatever, and so that's how we got to the show.
Nice. So, I guess, like I said, that is something. And for those that have never seen it, there's clips on YouTube that you can check out. You know, I still watch that to this day. You know, the different episodes from the from Lyricist Lounge. And I guess Tracy Ellis Ross was on that show. I think that was her start, wasn't it?
That was
her first show.
That was her first sitcom, I would say, at least. Yep.
Yeah. So like a lot of phenomenal people, other rappers that participated.
Heather McDonald, she actually is a writer for TV shows. She's well known. She's on there. She was on there as well. It was supposed to be like a hip hop SNL.
Right.
So everybody breaks off and becomes their own thing, similar to how like Living Color was. But from a rap sketch point of view, we all break off and do things. So that's the ideology behind it.
That's what's up. Yeah. So let's go ahead and jump. So you said that you have your book. Let's talk about your book. Right? Yeah. So what's the book that you recently released?
Man, I should have had it next to me. It's What Words Are Worth, Volume 1. Okay. So What Words Are Worth, Volume 1, and it's me breaking down not my first album, an album from 2015 called New Beginning. So check out the banner, y'all. And it's available on Amazon. And it's me. I always say it's Shakespeare. It's basically my rhymes from that album. And if you could ask Shakespeare what he meant by that.
Right.
So it's me explaining what each bar meant. Because a lot of times I'm seeing a lot of books of people taking people's lyrics and writing books about what they think the artist meant.
Right.
And they're putting out this book. Yeah, I dissected the album of this, and that's not what I meant. That's not what I mean. That's not what I'm talking about. So you get to hear it, and there's no need to be an argument about it. It's what it is.
Well, you hear straight from the writer's mouth. Exactly. This is what I meant.
Because there's so much things to this day. If it dealt with artists that have passed away that we love, you hear something or song, you be like, man, I wonder where he wrote that at. What was the vibe? What were they thinking when they? So now it's just I want to take that into my own hands and give people some insight and a narrative voice too. Because saying 16 bars and when I'm rhyming, it's different than you talking to me. So you get to hear me talking to you. So when you're reading it, it's actually a conversation that you get to hear my side of it without hearing me in 16 bars and in that voice.
Right. So tell me the difference in the writing process from writing rhymes versus writing a book. Like, what's the similarities and what's the differences that you would say?
Well, my process for writing a book, I do it like a cake. Okay. So I do the first layer going through it and writing, because what I found is if you try to write in order, I don't write in order neither. I just write. And then as I'm writing, I start divvying up what the chapters can be. Okay. So and then I go through it and I make whatever I think of, I can add in this chapter, I can add in this chapter, add in that, and then I put the puzzle together. So I'll go through one layer of writing as much as I can to the last chapter, and then I come back and now I'm laying the next layer of whatever frosting. Then I go back in and then I'll lay the next layer of cake, and then I do that until I feel that the cake is stacked where I need it to be in the book. Right. And then that's it. So I find that it's been more successful with me just doing that because then I'm nonstop. Right. So that's the key for me writing books. So writing a verse, the difference with writing the verse is that I have to be so intricate in such a shorter time. I can't explain to you, so I have to be very succinct with what I'm saying. It has to be, every word has to count and to be descriptive for what I'm trying to say in a matter of minutes or seconds. With a book, I can elaborate.
Right. So now, do you have like a curriculum with the book as well that you teach from, or is that something that's in the works?
It's actually being used at the University of Seattle. Seattle University actually has it in the curriculum. Salute to James Miles, the fresh professor. He actually put it in his curriculum out there in Seattle University. So that book is actually being studied. I had to answer some questions that students had the other day. So that's exciting that there's a whole group of kids that are reading about me and reading what I wrote, and it's going to impact them to think differently what I wrote and the bars, and then they're probably checking out my music, and then they're like, wow, this guy is saying some stuff. Also, the fact that it's potent without a beat. That's very key. That's very key to me when writing. So that's more important than anything for me when writing a verse. Is it just as potent, if not more potent, just reading it to somebody with no beat?
Okay. Right. Now, the fact that I guess we've seen that the book is now in, like I said, it's being used in the University of Seattle part of their curriculum. You know, you ever sit back and think about the fact that this genre of music called hip hop, and how back in the day people thought it was a fad and it's gonna go away and all this other stuff, and now it's being used in education in different aspects, right? You see that at the university level, you have hip hop classes and hip hop, curriculums and stuff like that. You have rappers being invited to come into on the collegiate level to come and teach.
Yeah.
Right. Then you also have several rappers that are educators themselves on like different levels. Like I know that at one point Sadat X was teaching, like yourself, you're teaching, John Robinson, Ninth Wonder,
Breeze Brewing.
Say it again.
Breeze Brewing.
Okay.
Juggernauts. Yeah.
Right. So I guess why do you think the education falls in line with hip hop?
Because the language has changed. Mm-hmm. So let's look at it like this: 20 years ago or so, right? The people that are in charge now were 40 or in their late 30s, maybe, and they didn't understand us being young and how powerful hip hop was.
Right.
Now they're older in higher positions over some of these same universities and places, and they can't relate to the youth because they've been shunning the language. So now they're more receptive because they seen that we've matured from our 20s to being in our 40s, and they find that when you're in your 40s or 30s, you're more of a mature person that can speak to the youth better than them.
Right.
Because a lot of them were shunning it, but they saw that it lasted the test of time. So now they need help trying to figure out, how do we communicate? And then overall, a lot of times it's business. How do we recruit? How do we get people to come here? How do we get people to do that? And it's a business. So they know that they need people that speak the language. So that's a lot of it right there. It's just, we speak the language at our age now, and we're more mature. And some of the elders don't speak that language, and they need people to help recruit people.
That's what's up. That sounds very factual. So, before I let you go, if people want to get in contact with you, how can they reach out to you?
You can hit me on the Instagram at Wordsworth, BKLYN, my Twitter, Facebook, or wordsworthbeats@gmail.com. And then depending on what it is, then I'll give you my other Gmail. Like I have another Gmail for like certain business things. So this depends on what it is. But if you're trying to send me beats, or you want to book me for panels and just to come out, talk to people and stuff like that, that's wordsworthbeats@gmail.com. And then if it's something in a different realm of what I do, I'll give you a different email and things like that. So, but that's pretty much, I'm very accessible, and I just try to keep it business related. If it's something that you really want to do and you got questions and you want to learn too, you can holler at me too.
That's what's up. That's what's up. All right. So, and for those that don't recognize the voice, this is the brother that also did the theme song, for the podcast as well.
Oh yeah.
With a verse. With the verse.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, brother.
For sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So again, go online, check out Wordsworth. Go on Amazon, read this book. It's very informative. I mean, it'll help expand your thinking and give you a different aspect of looking at hip hop and rhymes, where you get to hear the writer himself explain to you exactly what he meant when he put that album together.
Yeah, I have the audio version on Bandcamp, so you can go to Bandcamp, and I have the audio version of the book, and I also have a new album coming out in July. It's called The Fragility of Life. So, there's a couple of things coming up, and I'm gonna have another book coming out, I think next month, as long as we get these pictures right.
All right, that's what's up. All right, so definitely go online, follow this brother, check out his work. Like I said, he has a long resume of projects and work that he's done for the past 20 plus years.
Yes.
It's crazy when you think of the number, like, wow, 20.
Man, I think of the number because when I'm writing verses, and I'm still writing some verses that I feel like are still able to wow people and things like that, I think of being in college and still being able to have that quality.
Right.
And people ask me how, and I just sit there, and I just have a standard in my mind of what wows me. So when people wonder, it's really, what would I see a stranger do that will make me say that's fire?
Right.
And that's how I try to write. If I can't write it and I heard it from a stranger and I think it's fire, then I know it's not fire.
Right. That's what's up. All right. So again, thank you all for joining us today for another episode of Malik's First Job Podcast, and we'll catch y'all next week. Peace. What's going on? Have you ever wanted to get involved in real estate wholesaling, but just didn't know how? Well, my good friend Chris Jefferson has a whole course that he offers that teaches you all the ins and outs of real estate wholesaling. Look below in the show notes, you'll see a link that you can click on where you can get more information about the courses in which he offers. Show you how to get started in real estate wholesaling, how to get leads, how to promote yourself online. So definitely look below in the show notes, click on the link, get more information, and learn how to build your business. All right? Take care. Peace.
Generational wealth.